What's going on, everybody? I'm Jory Goodman, the Time Teller. Welcome to another installment of Micro Brand Monday. Now guys, one of my favorite parts about Micro Brand Monday is that I'm learning a lot about watches from companies I've never heard of before. So I don't want to say that just because I've never heard of a watch brand, you guys must have never heard of them. But I just think a lot of us are learning a lot about what's out there. So that's really, really fun. And I think that's a really nice part about Micro Brand Monday. Today, we're going to be taking a look at one of these companies. Again, I've never heard of until they wrote to me. E.C.A Watch Company, and yeah, they sent me this black box to my P.O. box. What might it contain? Hopefully, a micro brand. Let's crack it open and take a look. It's 2:12 p.m. Let's get down to business. All right, guys, moment of truth. Oh, okay, we got a little baggie of spring bars, so maybe we will be doing some strap changes. I don't know. Ooh, very, very nice. Look at this. Hold on. That's a pretty cool logo, actually. It's kind of like an hourglass from this angle. Let's clear this box out of the way. Wow, it's so reflective. You can see me in it. Hey, guys. Oh, hello. Yeah, so let's get this centered up. And really nice lacquered wood. Very, very cool. Let's take a look. Oh, okay. So the watch moved a bit during transport, but it's not a big deal. Okay, so we have a bracelet. Very nice, what seems to be bead blasted. I don't know, we're gonna get a close-up shot for you guys, but yeah, the finish is not mirrored or polished at all. It's definitely like a bead blast. We have the watch, which we will take a look at, of course. We have the E.C.A Watch Co. International Warranty, 2 years. Precision certificate, that's pretty cool. Let's get this in focus. What does this say? I've never heard of a precision certificate. We've regulated your watch by hand. Your watch is guaranteed to hold a daily average rate within -1 to +4 seconds and max deviation of any 5 positions at ±4 seconds at time of shipping. Very cool. So we have these 2 cards. We'll put those back inside that little sleeve. Let's see, we have a hang tag, and then we do, of course, have the watch itself. Let's go ahead and take a look at this, because this is why we're really here, right, guys? Let's take a look. And actually, real quick, guys, as I was moving this piece of packaging, there's an extra baggie with some extra links and spring bars. Very, very cool. Okay, dokie, guys, so here in my hands is what seems to be a pretty solid sports watch. These really thick lugs, kind of reminiscent of like a Rolex Deep Sea or something like that. Maybe not quite as chunky, but okay, brace yourself for a very long name. E.C.A Calypso Denise Date Diver. And that's what we have here. Let's take it off this pillow or cushion or pad, whatever you want to call it, and let's see what it is like. Now, first thing I will say, we've seen these clasps before, and these clasps, if I can hold it in front of the camera, are fairly functional because you do have those kind of immediate micro adjustments. I don't know if you'd call that a diver's extension, but I'm sure you could use that if you were to wear it over a wet or dry suit. But yeah, it gives you some extra real estate. That's always nice to see. And again, we're seeing this kind of bead blasted finish that seems to be apparent throughout the case. But we are getting some dual finishing because, again, one of the first things I noticed is that this is catching the light, this angle right here. Very nice to see that. And I can definitely see some anti-reflective coating there on the crystal. So yeah, let's talk about the specs. So as I kind of fumble around here removing this hang tag, we can talk about the specs that we will throw up on screen. Don't worry, this watch isn't going to make me throw up. We're just gonna show you the specs on screen. So this watch is made from 316L stainless steel. And of course, that's fairly standard nowadays when we're looking at sports watches. It is bead blasted steel on the clasp and on most of the case. You are getting a textured rubber strap, and that's what is fitted on this watch right here. Another thing I noticed when we're looking at this very, very stout case, you're getting drilled lugs. So if we were to want to change this out for maybe a sailcloth strap or maybe a NATO, if you're partial to those, maybe you're going to be a little bit naughty and you're going to wear your diver on a leather strap, you know, you don't have to worry. You can easily, very simply, quickly, and without having to scuff up your fingers or the case, you know, remove the spring bar and swap it out. Or, you know, you can use the supplied bracelet that we took a look at the beginning of the episode. Now, I want to get up close and show you the dial and, of course, the second hand moving across the screen while we talk about the movement. And I think that's actually a very, very interesting part when it comes to this watch. Let's talk about it. Okie dokie, guys. So let's go ahead and focus in on the second hand. We can see it's sweeping across the dial. It's not doing that quartz tick, 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 because this is an automatic movement, but it's not terribly smooth either. Like, I wouldn't say this seems to be a 28,800 BPH movement, and that's because it's not. It's actually a 21,600 BPH movement, so this is not technically high beat. Now, what movement is this? Well, E.C.A. Watch Co. refers to it as their Cal E.C.A. NE01, but as we look further, it's a modified Seiko NE57. So this is a modified Seiko movement. Now that's a great movement, and you know, E.C.A. Watch Co. did calibrate this and regulate it, and you could see from the precision card that this is a very accurate watch. But again, it's not the smoothest sweep. If you care about that, then you know, get a Sellita. This ain't it. Now, for me personally, I do enjoy the look of a nice, smooth, high beat sweep, but the truth is, if it's a solid movement and if it's accurate, that's kind of all that matters, right? Now, what's funny is I was about to talk about the power reserve. This watch does have a 45-hour power reserve, but we can see here something I didn't know. This watch actually has a power reserve indicator on the dial. And good news, if you guys don't like power reserve indicators, if you think they're typically an eyesore, this is very stealthy. This is very under the radar. I didn't notice it, but you can see that little red hand is actually indicating this watch is almost dead. So let's go ahead and test the crown setting and function, see if we can hand wind this watch and give it a little more juice. Okie dokie, so before we test that bezel and everything, I do want to test the crown setting and function and see about hacking, hand wind, and getting this a little bit more juice and seeing how that power reserve indicator reacts. So the first thing I do want to bring up is these crown guards seem to be very functional because we can see the crown is very, very recessed into those crown guards. So if you're at all worried about bumping that crown, you know, this absolutely will mitigate any knocks. We can see a signed crown with that very interesting logo. All right, let's see. Okay, it is a threaded crown. Very smooth, actually. Hold up, maybe I spoke too soon. It's binding a little bit when I go to thread it back in. What is going on here? All right, so it was very smooth to unthread and threading it back in. Wow, it's a bit of a nightmare. Hold on here, guys. You can see it doesn't want to thread back in. Yowza, let's get a close-up of this. I want to check out those threads, actually. Let's get close. All right, guys, so full disclosure, this is a media piece. And of course, special thanks to E.C.A. Watch Co. for sponsoring my channel and sending me this watch to review. I'm gonna be sending this watch probably to another reviewer, so here we go. There. I don't know why it was binding at first, but when I got it lined up, man, it was very smooth. And unthreading it, very, very, very smooth. It binds up a little bit at the beginning, and then it's nice and smooth after that. So yeah, not the smoothest crown. Had a little bit of a hiccup trying to get it back in place. But unthreading it, very nice. And yeah, it wants to bind up a little bit, guys, when you try to thread it back in. So that's kind of annoying. All right, let's zoom out and check out the crown setting. All right, so the crown is unthreaded. Let's pull it out all the way. The second hand has stopped because this watch does in fact have hacking. Let's push it in and then let's focus on that power reserve. We can see just winding it, was giving it some juice. Let's close in on that. There we go. It is, in fact, alive! Oh yeah, and we can see nice skeletonized handset there, so you get a little bit more of a dynamic look. You can see that date dial. You can see that power reserve indicator kind of shining through that minute hand. Very, very cool. Now, speaking of that date dial, let's go ahead, pull it out to the second position or final position. Move the hands, because people get upset when you change the date when your hour hand is anywhere near midnight, because you're going to, the watch will literally explode if you do that. I'm just kidding, guys. I've never had an issue with that, but you know, people, there's rules in this hobby. Okay, let's push the crown in, and that should be, now, if we put it to the first position. Oh yeah. That is the date setting. We'll put it at the 18th. Why not? Hacking. Okay, so two very distinct settings. I love to see that. Now let's see if we can thread. Yep. Threading the crown back in, honestly, not the best. Look at that. It binds up and then it doesn't want to go to your home. Go back to your home. Happy Gilmore reference. Heck yeah, I'm hilarious. Okay, that is absolutely going to be my first complaint. That crown, it binds up like nothing I've ever experienced before. I don't know if it's just because this is kind of the media piece or what, but threading it out, very simple. Threading it back in, not the best. Now, let's test out the bezel actuation. Okay, unidirectional bezel. That's pretty typical for a dive watch. Very positive ratcheting sound. And no real play. That's great. So some of the dive watches with rotating bezels that I've been reviewing here for Microbrand Monday have had a lot of slack in the bezel, and that's just sloppy, guys. This Calypso Denise date does not have that issue, and I'm happy to see it. Man, the finishing on this case is actually great. That's like the first thing that I want to say. Great, great, great. And I love the look of that crystal with that very, very clean, deep, shiny black. And you get some flecto on that dial, you get some flecto on that bezel, you get some flecto from that crystal. Very cool. Let's talk about the crystal. Okay, so as we can see from this angle, a lot of flecto coming off that crystal. I actually like that look. I think it's a fun, dynamic look. Some people expect any crystal with anti-reflective coating to give off zero reflections. I don't think that that's how it works, but this is in fact sapphire crystal with anti-reflective coating, and the giveaway is that there is a little bit of a blue hue, little bit of a blue hue. It's kind of a tongue twister, but all jokes aside, there is a bit of blue coming off the edge of the crystal, and again, I really like that look. All right, guys, so now comes the time we must scrutinize the watch's logo. Now, they actually didn't choose to use that kind of hourglass logo that we found on the hang tag and on the crown and on the box, which is interesting because I thought that that's what they would do, but I think it looks a bit more professional with the writing of the watch company's name or watch manufacturer's name on the dial. I think if they solely used that logo, I think it would look very micro-brandy. So this looks a little bit more refined. It's not super stylized, it's not huge when it comes to font, but I'd love to hear what you think. We can see the E.C.A, and then we can see, oh, this is gonna be a doozy, JORY, which is Gothenburg, or Gothenburg, however you wanna say it, but I looked up the Swedish pronunciation, JORY. I am butchering it for sure, but I'm trying very hard here, guys. My very simple mind cannot comprehend these very interesting names that I'm trying. Guys, I'm really trying. But in Gothenburg, Sweden, this watch is produced. And yeah, what do you guys think about that logo? Do you think, or excuse me, what do you think about the signage? Do you think they should have used the logo? Do you think it looks better this way or vice versa? Leave me a comment, because again, I'd love to hear your perspective on this. Everyone's very picky when it comes to what is on the dial of their watch, and I don't blame them. All right, so since we're up close, I wanted to give you a little look-see about the dual case finishing. I think they did a very good job all around. We see some scuffs, but again, I believe this is a media watch that has been passed around, so, you know, that's inevitable. But we can see the flat surfaces of the case have this kind of bead-blasted texture, but then if I move my hand around, you can see the edges of that case have a nice mirrored polish, and you can see the reflection of my hand in those mirrored surfaces. Very, very well done. I really like that. Let's go ahead and measure the watch and then put it on the wrist with the rubber strap, and then we'll take advantage of these drilled lugs and throw it on the bracelet. All right, guys, it wouldn't be a Micro Brand Monday episode without my digital calipers. Let's go ahead and measure the case diameter. So at its widest point, excluding those crown guards, we can get a 40.2 millimeter case diameter. Let's go ahead and measure lug to lug. 46.1 millimeters. And again, lug to lug is much more important than case diameter as far as wearability goes, in my opinion. Let's measure this case thickness. This is one thick boy, 15.4 millimeters thick. Yowza. I don't think that's a bad measurement. This is a very stout case in my opinion. Doesn't seem too bulky or cumbersome though. It just feels, you know, solid for the most part. But let's go ahead and put it on the wrist. Very excited to wear this one. All right, guys, so actually just for reference, I had to take off the Seiko tuna to put on that Calypso date diver. So I actually want to measure the case thickness on this one because I'm pretty sure they're similar. Yeah, 15.5 millimeters thick. So this tuna is also a thick boy. No judgment here, man. Again, come over if you thick, stay home if you sick. Especially because, you know, the pandemic's going on right now, whatever. And we've encountered another hiccup. Guys, throughout this review, I've been undoing the clasp and redoing the clasp to put it back on the pillow because this is just a nice stable platform from which to shoot. But I thought that like something was wrong with my head, like something wasn't feeling right. And then now that I'm putting it on my wrist, I'm realizing I wasn't crazy. The clasp is on backwards. Like whoever put the strap on this watch was not paying attention because the clasp is legitimately upside down. So yeah, okay, we're gonna have to remedy that first. All right, clasp done properly so I can close it on my wrist. We can see here, does not encompass the entirety of my wrist. Actually sits very nicely. For reference, guys, I do have a 7.5 inch wrist and it feels pretty good. Again, pretty thick case, but not terrible. Doesn't feel super duper cumbersome. I'm very interested in putting it on the bracelet though, because I want to see how the bracelet fits between these lugs, and I want to see how it kind of flows, that whole bead blasted theme. Let's do it. And actually, guys, real quick, now that I have the watch's head in my hands, I wanted to show you the bead blasting pattern, of course, follows all the way to the back of the case. But then we see this really nice engraving of kind of a whale, stylized whale down there. And then we get like a ship, E.C.A. Andersson, Calypso Denise, professional diver. Very, very cool. And it's nice to see that the pretty high quality finishing goes all throughout. Of course, I had to smudge up the crystal there. But let's go ahead and put it on the bracelet. All right, just fasten the bracelet on the watch, and it looks pretty nice. We can see no real end link, a straight end link here. Kind of gives it a more tool watch vibe. It's not the smoothest transition into the case, again, because you are getting a straight lug design, but it does look very tough, very utilitarian, but again, I'd love to hear your opinion. I know this is going to bother some people. They'd like to see this space kind of utilized a bit better, but yeah, that's how they chose to do it. I personally, like again, although this bracelet feels very good, and although I do like that bead blasted pattern, I would probably wear this on like a sailcloth strap. That's just me. All right, favorite part of the episode. Time to test the dang loom. We're gonna burn it up here with this torch. Oh yes, illuminate it with the torch. Oh man. Yeah, it's high time we get some decent loom around these parts. It's not the brightest. You know what? I hate to do it, but it's right here, so I'm going to do it. Here is the Seiko tuna. It hasn't even been illuminated yet, But check this out. I'm gonna burn it, and then I'm gonna go ahead and burn this one. And you can see the Seiko tuna is much brighter. So that's not a diss to this Calypso Denise date. It's just, you know, I just want to show you just how ridiculous Seiko's proprietary LumiBrite Lume is. Like, I'm gonna keep shining this one, and still that Seiko is just like that much brighter. It's just ridiculous. So not the worst lume, and you know what? I really do like that this Calypso has decent lume on the bezel markings there. But yeah, far cry from Seiko. So big ups, man. Okay guys, so we spent some time with the E.C. Anderson watch company Calypso Denise Date Diver, and yeah, it's a very long name. Also a long spec sheet. We're getting a sapphire crystal anti-reflective coating, threaded crown, 200-meter water resistance rating, date dial, power reserve indicator, hacking, hand wind, stainless steel case. The threading could be better on the crown. I think that was kind of a hiccup. You are getting a very nice bezel, really solid build quality. Honestly, that's the first thing that stood out to me, is really nice finishing, really looks like a tool watch. Like when people look at me, they're immediately like, hey, you look like a tool. And that's kind of what I get from this watch. This watch absolutely looks like a watch that you can and should use, but it comes with a price tag, okay? $890. Now you are getting a modified, highly accurate Seiko automatic movement. The spec sheet looks pretty good, but that is a pretty penny. Now, again, with all of these Micro Brand Monday reviews, I almost never say, oh, you gotta go out and get this right now. So I'm not gonna say that here. I'm just giving you the information. You can formulate your own opinions. I think this is a very, very solid watch with some really impressive specs. The only real issue I have is with that crown threading. I think they could have utilized a different end link design. They chose to go with just straight end links. Again, makes it look really, really tough and tooly. But $890, there's a whole lot of watches you could choose within that price range. This is one of them. But again, really interesting dynamic dial layout. It's not just your average Submariner homage. It is a Swedish made watch, which is not something we see every day. This might be the first Swedish watch I've reviewed. I could be wrong, but I think so. But yeah, I really enjoyed this review, and I think that if you're looking for a tool watch with a really solid build quality that is not just some homage, this is definitely an option for you. So guys, I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me during this installment of Micro Brand Monday. I want to thank E.C. Anderson Watch Company for sending me this watch and sponsoring this episode. We can't do this content, any of these Micro Brand Mondays, without the support of these manufacturers, excuse me. We thank them because, you know, it takes guts to send me their products and have me really scrutinize them with my macro lens, and shows me that they really do stand behind their products. So thank you, E.C. Anderson Watch Company. And yeah, guys, thank you to the viewers. Thank you to my channel members for making all of this possible. Join the channel, $4.99 a month. It's like YouTube's Patreon. You get 6 pieces of content a week, plus access to that members only Discord chat. Whole lot of fun over there. Check out the affiliate links in the description below, and check out my personal website, www.thetimetellershop.com. All right, guys, until next time, stay happy, stay healthy, stay blessed. I'm JORY Goodman, the Time Teller, and always remember, I didn't invent time. I just tell it.